to this at I delivered a presentation similar to this at the AIC annual forum this year for the people who had recently received their accreditation of the CPC. And looking at it from a career advancement and public relations standpoint, just wanted to put some ideas out there of how you can maximize this accreditation. So to you, what is the value of having received the CPC? If I could just get some comments and thoughts from the group, that would be helpful.
I'll go ahead and unmute folks as well now.
So once again, what's the value of the CPC to you personally? Let's start with just sharing some ideas with the group, please.
Anyone out there?
Yeah, this is Andy Larson. I would say credibility is probably what the value has been. You know, just from a credibility, from a client standpoint, you know, every little bit helps.
Okay, excellent. What are some other comments of what has been the value of the CPC for you personally?
Yeah, this is David. I'd say another level of professionalism that it shows, and when you're presenting yourself to clients or other members of the industry.
Excellent. Any other thoughts?
Hi, this is Ted Chamberlain with Ames. I don't know, I've had my CPC for several years, and I guess there's not a whole lot of recognition for it as far as people knowing what it is and what it's all about. But I agree with the, you know, professionalism and people know that you're experienced and knowledgeable. But I think there needs to be a bigger push to make it more widespread or more well-known, more like the CCM and other certifications that are out there.
Yes. Yeah, that's an excellent point, because, and that's part of the reason I really wanted to get some feedback, is that I would also imagine from my experience in the construction industry, this CPC certification is one of the most rigorous, and I was completely unaware of just how many years is invested in this process. And if that's something I'm unaware of, I would imagine that likely your firms, your clients, architects, engineers, other professionals who are working with you, and certainly, just as Ted mentioned, the industry is probably largely unaware of just how much knowledge you've gained by having this CPC. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, if I recall, it was like a 7 or 10 year experience requirement, and I got my AC, if that's the right terminology, back when I graduated from Arizona State University, because they pushed, the School of Construction pushed that and said, you guys need to take this test. This is going to be like the new thing, and, you know, basically like PEs for constructors. And I had it for, you know, forever and never really did anything with it. And then all of a sudden one day I'm like getting stuff in the mail, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I think I have the right quals now. So I went and did it. But besides Arizona State and Sunt Construction, they're the only two people in Arizona, at least, that really push this or promote it and know what it is.
Yes.
So this is Todd Morrison out here in California, and I second what he's saying. There's just not a whole lot of knowledge here of what the CPC is, and, you know, a certification such as the PMP is given more credibility, and that's a little concerning to me.
Yep, excellent. So let's talk about how we can go out and promote this and educate people. So we'll explore that in the next several minutes. Let's first talk about some key messages. So if they're lacking awareness of just how many years is invested in this certification, and just the knowledge of what goes into it and how it benefits them, can we work as a group, the audience, an interactive group, of what the 3 most important messages are of this certification, of how it would benefit the industry, how it benefits your credibility meeting with clients, how it benefits a client. And let's agree on 3 key messages that then will serve as your elevator speech, but also will serve as possible entry points with the media for some earned media, instead of taking out an ad saying, David and Andy and Ted and Todd all just received their CPC. That obviously wouldn't be probably an appropriate display ad, but it certainly could be something that the media would be interested in an earned standpoint. So if we were going to pitch this to our client to win the work, or we're going to pitch this to an editor to show them why this is something that differentiates you or your firm, what are some very important messages that rise to the top?
I think it would be important for everybody to know just how rigorous it is to attain this, that you have to, pass a series of 2 tests really over a period of years to attain it.
Okay. So perhaps some of the highlights of the content and the duration. I think to me what stands out from that, and just by way of background, before starting Small Giants, which is a marketing and business development firm based in Arizona, specifically for construction, we've been in business for 7 years. Prior to that, I worked for a general contractor for 9 years. So I was on the side that many of your firms are, trying to find little nuggets of interesting things about our projects and our people. But even before that, I was the editor of an ENR publication for Arizona. It was called at the time Southwest Contractor. And I was always looking for something different, a unique message. We didn't typically run the, he just got promoted, won this award. Those run in the little news section, but something different that not many people were aware of. So if I were an editor today now, and someone told me about the level of rigor and the dedication required, and maybe even some personal stories of balancing, the largest project you've built and still, scheduling this time to dig into these books and hitting some of the highlights of the topics that are covered in the CPC, that would be beneficial too. So if you could outline what rigor means and what some of the series of the 2 tests include. The other thing is that a lot of people understand other licensing credibility, like the AIA. I think all of us on this webinar today knows that establishes an architect as an experienced professional. They take a series of tests just like you. They probably have less than 7 years into it, right? The other aspect is, what about like an accountant versus a CPA? So giving your firm, the media, your prospective client an analogy like there is a lot of rigor to receiving the CPC. Let's take the CPA as an accountant as an example. It's very similar to that in that we take multiple tests and so forth. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, and this is Ted again. I agree with that, and maybe something like 7 years experience, client certified, passed 2 exams or something like that is a bullet or a headline for what it entails. And can't quote me on the years. I don't remember how many years it takes to do it, but that kind of, to me, encompasses what that experience qualifier is.
Okay. Yes, excellent. So I've seen, let's just take Ted as an example with Sant, that they will have on a resume CPC certification. But if to the layperson, I have no idea. Well, that sounds nice. Did you get that in a weekend? I don't have any idea. So having some qualifiers to what the benefit to the client is. So let's agree that idea number 2 is the benefit to the client. And the benefit to the client would be what?
Professionalism.
But dig into that. I'm going to challenge you to dig into that a little bit more. What can they really expect through this certification?
A thorough knowledge of contract documents and understanding of construction practices.
Okay.
And I'd add to that, I think, just conduct business ethically. This is Andy, and the only place I'm able to use the marketing piece of mine is I utilize it on RFPs, and I always attach more of a definition and a summary, which I pulled off of the AIC website. But that's the only, nobody knows what it is around here in Minnesota, so I just dovetailed into like an RFP, but that's really the only value I think I'm creating.
Good. Okay, that's good. So one thing I picked up from what Andy said is that he has referred back to the website, which is, if you've not done that as a group, each one of you individually should go see what their messaging is and then pull and use that. The second thing is that when I did this in person, there was probably 50 or maybe 100 people in the room. And the 2 things, as he touched on, that rose to the top from that group is that in that 7 years of higher level of professionalism and knowledge, when we really dug into what the tangible difference was, it sounded like it was definitely best practices, a much more thorough understanding of the construction documents, and then the most that I heard was just the ethics part of it, that it really is refining the approach to doing business fairly and ethically. Does that sound like that resonates for all of you?
Yes.
Okay, so if we were to have 3 key ideas then, let's first say that it's just the dedication of saying, you know what, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm going to get a certification that doesn't come on a weekend. It's a 7-year process. Secondly, the client benefits in these key areas, and then identify a few that mean the most to you, whether it's ethics, whether it's contract documents, best practices. And then finally, the benefits that it has brought to you to share with your firm and also with trade partners. What would you say are some of the most transferable knowledge bases from the CPC that you can share with architects, consultants, engineers, subcontractors?
Say that one more time.
What are some of the key ideas that our last piece of these key messages is what from the CPC is the most transferable to your trade partners, to architects that you would be prospecting with or working with on a project, consultants, engineers, etc.
How about that there's a standard level of knowledge?
Yeah, I second that. This is Ted. Really the contract document knowledge working knowledge and understanding of contract documents. I think that was one of the key things of the certification and the test, was your ability to understand and interpret those.
Good. And the architects and any other consultants really benefit from that, instead of kind of our stereotypical or our traditional way of thinking, is that we're looking at it only from our vantage point, right? As constructors. But now
another thing was the safety.
Can you elaborate?
Well, just safety practices, kind of knowing what to look for to avoid those conditions and accidents from happening. Something that, a lot of times the architects or engineers won't really notice.
Good. Okay. So I think all of us agree that there are key messages. Now we're going to talk about...
Hey, Danielle, this is Dave Calder. I think you didn't quite finish your point there, but I think what you were trying to say, which was a good point to put out there, was that, usually you're going in as a contractor, basically stating that, hey, your point of view, the way you're going to approach this is the best way. But if you're approaching it as versus a CPC way, it's more showing your joint effort, best practices point of view, that you're not going in as just your way is the only way to go. It shows the client that you're open to ideas and essentially best practice.
Okay. Yes, excellent. So now basically the three key messages is that we know personally how it's benefited us. Secondly, we have a better understanding of what we've gained that you don't just get from your education and your career at a company, through best practices, knowledge of, construction documents, ethics, etc. And then finally, the benefit to your trade partners. And just having another point of view that way. So we're going to take these kind of higher level ideas, and if you think of others, obviously that's helpful as well. And now we're going to look at it from an internal standpoint and external standpoint. Internally for your company, I guess I'll say, just because I'm knowledgeable with SUNT, they might be the exception because they've adopted it as a company culture to have the CPC. But if you are someone who has the CPC, but it's not something that's widely knowledgeable in your company, what are some of the hurdles that you face in having the certification, but no one internally is aware of it?
Here in California, at least on the owner's side, working for a public agency and kind of moving around looking for other jobs, a lot of times an equivalent job will be looking for a professional engineer license, and they don't recognize the CPC is equivalent to that. So we end up getting excluded from those opportunities.
Yep, and they might not recognize it because they're not widely aware of what it really entails, correct?
Correct. And really, it's not just limited to the CPC. It's kind of limited to, the construction management major as well. Not some of these public agencies not really recognizing that is equivalent or would meet the need for what they're looking for in project managers. I think the construction companies understand it, but the public agencies don't quite get it yet.
Yeah, great point. Now, is there someone on the webinar who is working with a construction company who doesn't have a lot of the CPCs internally, who feels that internally they may not understand what you have accomplished?
Yeah, hey Danielle, this is Ted. I mentioned SUNT before. I actually work for Ames, but I mentioned SUNT because they have that embedded in their culture. And they, when I went and did the exam a few years ago, there was like half a dozen SUNT people there, and they do promote that and almost required, I think, of their people. But here at Ames, we don't. I'm the only person that has it. There might be one other person in the company somewhere in a different region.
Yeah.
But it's really not, it's not promoted, and it's really not, they just look at it as I submit an invoice every year for $75, and they're like, "What's this for?"
Right.
But I think until, maybe by promoting that through the hiring process and looking for candidates as we continue to grow and hire more people, to say to my boss maybe, "Hey, you should be looking for this certification for people that you hire so that you can know that they are knowledgeable in their field and they know what they're doing." But I really feel until owners on client projects start requiring this, like they do on the CCM or of a PE or other things like that, when they require it on a RFQ of the project manager, the company's not really going to start seeking to have people certified or seeking out certified personnel until it becomes a mandate.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I think some of what you're touching on, Ted, is the training and maybe even a little bit of the mentoring of getting into the HR people, the training, the people who are leading some of the training, maybe even leading something that you've not led before, just about the certification. And it's not obviously, look at me, I got my certification, so much as let me give you, let's say, as an example, for marketing and business development professionals in construction, we have a certification called the CPSM, and it is built around 6 domains of practice. And so I could do a presentation and say, here's the 6 domains of practice that I have studied over the course of the last, 10 years. And this is what we learned. And here are some best practices that might be helpful to our agency or to our company. And so you're showing them, really unpacking for them what you gained from your education. So if there's an opportunity to do that internally, to do some training or give a presentation, going kind of back to this first bullet point, that data is really powerful to show them how many people, how many people have gotten this certification, how many hours of studying on average it takes, how many years, just giving them some numbers and saying, this is what it takes to get the CPC, and how does the company benefit from it, and kind of sharing that. So if you have an intranet for your company, that's an excellent way of doing it. Your website, if you're listed on your company's website, again, instead of just putting CPC, maybe putting a little bullet point, or if there's an area that you can give a quote or something to share with them a few of the key takeaways of what a client gains from this certification. The more you get it out there and really educate people and promote it, the more helpful it is. Your marketing department is your greatest ally to say, how can we get more knowledge of this? Could you help me write an article about this?
One thing that I was able to do this past year was we had an intern who he was from Arizona State, and they used to make it mandatory to take the AC exam, and now they're making it kind of optional. And he came to me knowing that I was certified and asked me, what is it? What's it all about? How did you get it? Why should I take this exam? It's going to cost me $50 or whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. And, I kind of pushed him through the process. So that's another way is, I guess, encourage junior staff members to take the AC test and pursue full certification.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of falls into that mentoring piece too. If you can find students that haven't gone through it and you can encourage them, then you're starting to build a culture and bringing the younger people into it. So let's move to external. So here are some external vehicles that we can use. We can reach out to the media, local media. Generally, for every state, there are local trade publications. In Arizona, it would be ENR Southwest as an example. In California, and someone mentioned Minnesota, you probably have related local trade publications. There are also, like the AGC publication, Constructor. You can always pitch media ideas to them and tell them about the certification, see if they'd be willing or interested in doing a piece. Now, while it might feel a little self-promoting to say, yeah, my name is Andy and I just wanted to let you know I got my certification, that's not really newsworthy per se, but if you pitched it to the media saying, there's a certification that professional contractors go through, it is 7 years of rigor, and these are the outcomes. And, data shows that blah, 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 they are going to pick up that story. And if Andy could get some of his peers, like on this webinar right now, and say, you know what, don't only interview me, interview Dave and Ted and Todd and Andy, and then we can go through and say, let's do this as a kind of a group article. It would be fantastic, not only to promote the CPC, but also to then give the result of that article to your clients and prospects. Has anyone done anything like that?
No, I haven't.
So it's that would be a very good opportunity, and it's actually quite easy. If you have a marketing department or, in the case of the public agency, a PR department or something, that they could reach out. If you guide them to some of the publications that you think would be most helpful, that could be something that would really, there's no cost to it, and it would be a great way to promote it. And then once it's printed, you can use it to promote yourself and sell jobs and so forth. Social media is an outstanding platform, again, no cost, to where you can send this out. You can put it on your LinkedIn account, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And then, as we kind of touched on with some of the ASU students in the construction program, perhaps teaching or doing a small group, encouraging them to join a club, a student club that maybe touches on some of the major takeaways for the CPC. Nothing that you have to spend a ton of time doing yourself, but just trying to create avenues to get the message out for yourself, but also for the certification and the betterment of promoting that certification. So let's talk about a few things I mentioned. In LinkedIn, I'm sure all of you have LinkedIn. If you don't, that's one of your takeaways when you get off the webinar. In your LinkedIn, if you go in, I have a screenshot here, and you go into your profile and click down onto Edit Profile, you can add certifications. So this is an example of this, the Certified Social Marketing Specialist that Kimberly has. Yours would be the CPC. And you can add detail in there as to what that really is. So that should be something you definitely do with your LinkedIn profile. Once you do that, if you have an extensive gathering of contacts, like in this example, Kimberly has 500 contacts, that update automatically posts to every one of your contacts. So that's a great way to promote that. The other thing is you can update your status. Once you're done, I know that some of you have done it, you got your certification many years ago, but if it's recent, I just completed my certification, and you click share. That again shares out to all of your contacts. And Joe, this might be a question for you, but is there a group for the AIC in LinkedIn?
Yeah, our group's at about 2,000 members right now. It's pretty popular.
So is everyone on this call a member of the LinkedIn group for AIC?
No.
So you should
No.
definitely do that.
I can't remember.
So that's something that each one of you should definitely do. You just go into your groups, and then you join as a member, and then this is a snapshot of what you can see. The members, you're now connected to every member. You're not directly connected, but you have an awareness of every member, and you can start a discussion. So if you say, I'm excited to have completed my certification, here's some of the takeaways I learned, I encourage you all to complete this, or whatever it might be, and you simply share that, 2,000 plus people in your profession see that. So again, that's free. Company status updates. So you can go into LinkedIn. We're still on LinkedIn, and you can go to, I'm sorry, this is actually Facebook, but before I get off of LinkedIn, before you can get into your LinkedIn company page. So let's say Ames Construction. You go to Ames, their company page, and you can go in and click in a status in your company page as well. And that goes out to everyone who's following your company page, which is outstanding, because most often that is architects, engineers, and client prospects and clients. So just another platform to get it out there. Completely free. It takes like 10 seconds to do. If your company has a Facebook page, you can do that as well. Tell the marketing person, I just received my certification, or this is my 10th year in having my certification, or something like that, and they can just post a status with your photo, and it goes out to everyone. Let's talk quickly about public relations. So if that was social media, if we're going to do a more traditional route in public relations, there's paid and unpaid, as I mentioned. The unpaid is that earned media where you reach out to the editors. And what you can do, and I'm going to show you an example, is you can go to the editorial calendar and find the best opportunity for you to pitch this article. So yes, let's just say that David receives his CPC. He just received it. That would be a tiny little news blip. You could send out a press release. The certification means this and this, and Ted has a background of 15 years in the industry and blah, 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 whatever. And that can go out in the form of a press release. And you might get a one-sentence little, blurb like you might have seen in the business journals or whatever. But if we're talking about promoting an article, doing an article like we talked about, where it's a bigger issue and they talk about it as an article and you're quoted in the article, it has even more credibility and it's going to get a lot more coverage. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to skip over right here to editorial calendar. So here is a snapshot of their editorial calendar, and you can see that they have a variety of different lists. They have different focuses. These are called your issue focuses. So this one right here shows you that they're going to have a list of commercial building contractors. This would be a good month and date to pitch to them. You probably don't want to pitch it to them saying, this editorial focus is banking and finance, and they have a list of janitorial firms. That's not going to get you as many people viewing it. If you can get into the publication that is promoting a topic that's relevant, commercial building, office buildings of the year, something like that, every publication, largely every publication, has an editorial calendar. So you're going to refer to that editorial calendar, and when you pitch your article, there's a lot you might not know about a certification in our industry called the CPC. I was wondering if in your May 31st issue, you might be interested in writing an article. I'm happy to serve as a point of contact, and here are some key highlights of what the benefits are. That's what a pitch looks like. Any questions on that? Okay, so let's look at another format. If you want to just submit some changes, this is an example of the Phoenix Business Journal. You can go anytime onto their website, click on People, on the Move, that's a section that comes up every week, and here's right here. It's not just for new hires and promotions. It also has a section for professional recognition. And you can submit the information about your recognition. And there's, again, no cost. This is earned media. Are there any questions about how to promote this internally and externally to a higher level?
Nope.
Thank you all for attending. If I can answer any questions or any thoughts that you have, I'm happy to stay on to do so. Otherwise, this concludes the webinar for the increased public relations and awareness of the CPC. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thanks
another
a lot.
thing to throw in there, at least from the AIC side, is if you do have those successes, let us know at the AIC, because we can be another way to amplify some of those small successes, whether it's you got the CPC included on a proposal or you had a press release picked up somewhere. Let us know so we can help push that out on our end as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions we can throw at Danielle here?
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, thank you, Danielle, again for jumping on. This was great. Again, like I said, this was one of the more popular sessions at our annual forum. It's always a topic a lot of our members are looking to get a little bit more info on and how they can best promote themselves as a professional and as a CPC.
Great. Thank you very much.